It started with the biggest pipe bomb the FBI had ever seen.
There is a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
It ended in a dumpster after the largest manhunt in American history.
My knees knocked so hard that I was about to answer them. That's how nervous I was.
Eric Rudolph and the rise of anger.
Domestic terrorism has been metastasizing across the country for a long time now.
True story, true crime, true consequences for us all.
American Shrapnel from award-winning journalists Becca Andrews and John Archibald, two-time winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Now available wherever you get your podcasts.
The Oregon Ducks have started fall camp, and the Ducks Confidential podcast is back. I'm Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian OregonLive. I'm back on the Oregon beat after being gone for about 5 or 6 years covering the Blazers. And I reeled in my main man, George Wrighster, from the Unafraid Show. George, I'm surprised you accepted the invite, but thanks for joining the podcast so we can bring the best of the best to the fans of the Ducks with the former player legend in you and the objective journalist in myself. Welcome to the show.
Journalist.
Welcome to the show.
First of all, congratulations to you on being put back on a winning beat instead of covering the Blazers. You got upgraded, sir. And so that's first and foremost. And, you know, I'm happy to be here. Everybody knows I love the Ducks. But, Aaron, I listen. I guess I'm going to have to introduce myself formally because Oregon legend, Hall of Famer, former host of on SiriusXM's Mad Dog, on the Nightcap, for the last 4 years, 3 hours a day, talking sports. And then you can find me now on the Unafraid Show, CW, talking college football, interviews with all sorts of college football coaches all over the country, which you can find there as well. So now we are here to talk about the Ducks, which is obviously going to be exciting, an exciting year, exciting times. And just before we even start,
you just filibustered about yourself. The ego just.
No, when you are taught in sports, it is about team. When you enter corporate America, everybody knows you have to be able to articulate the things that you can do and the special qualities that you have. That's not braggadocious. These are actual facts. It's not bragging if it's true.
Okay, well, I did have some nice things to say about you before you just went on the filibuster, but I have to say this. So on OregonLive, I'm doing an all-quarter century team deal, and I just wrote about you last night. I actually got to my tight end part, and there's George Wrighster. Got a nice picture of you up there. You were second team All-League in 2002 after Justin Peele overshadowed you a little bit in 2021. You were a fourth-round pick to Jacksonville, 5 or 6 years with the Jaguars, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, 6 years.
Carved out a pretty nice career.
Yeah, 6 years with the Jags and went up to the Giants, had a little cup of coffee. And but I will say that Justin Peele was a really good mentor. Like, he was a guy who played in the NFL for a long time too, and he wasn't as athletic and couldn't do some of the things that I can do, but he taught me how to be a college football player. And he taught me how to be tough because he played in our bowl game with mono, and most people don't know that.
Nice. Yes, he definitely is in my all-time tight ends list. You can go on OregonLive and find those by position and vote on those. So let's recap some of our history. So I think we began chatting about the Ducks in like 2016 or 17. I think we got into a discussion over Taggart versus within the DMs, and then that sort of grew from there. And I've been on a lot of the shows that you just talked about with you, and we've talked about the Ducks or talked about your sorry Lakers, or one of the two. But we've had a lot of interesting banter. You've come at me on Twitter a few times. I've had to defend myself because you come at me sideways, and the fans get all excited about it because people like to hate on me. So when they see you hating on me, it adds fuel to the fire. But I always have to, push back and let you know the real deal. But the thing I like most is that tight end next to quarterback and maybe middle linebacker is one of the smartest positions on the field because you have to be well versed.
No, Aaron, you had it correct in beginning. It is on the field. The person that has to know the absolute most is the quarterback. And I want to make sure that everybody understands this about football. The person who has to know the second most is the tight end. That's it. Nobody
on
else.
offense.
No,
on offense.
Period. On any other position, because you have to know, if you are the tight end, you have to know the running back stuff. You have to know the entire offensive line responsibilities. You have to know the wide receiver responsibilities. And you obviously have to know your own responsibilities and then how those things change where you are on the field. And I was just talking to Cam Rising about this. And he was like, yeah, bro, tight ends are the second most knowledgeable people on the field. And I'm actually surprised that more tight ends aren't head coaches right now. But I think we're getting to that thanks to Mr. Dan Campbell.
Well, I said one of the top 3. So I was in the ballpark, but middle linebacker has to know all the things you just said about offense and everything on defense, because usually your middle backer is orchestrating everything on defense and offense and how you react, on defense and on the front 7 and the secondary, and how everyone's supposed to react to everything you just talked about in offense. That's why I included middle linebacker. So I'm still going to go quarterback, middle linebacker, tight end, but regardless, we're splitting hairs. I was trying to give you a compliment and you had to jump in and raise the ante again and give yourself an even bigger compliment. I can just see where this is going to be going, but that's cool.
Positions. I was giving the position.
While patting yourself on the back. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. So real quick, just to reintroduce myself to Duckland. I covered the Ducks from 2004 to 2006. Then I went to the NFL, covered the Seahawks, came back to the Ducks in 2010, just in time to cover them in the national championship game. Covered them through 2017, then went back to the Seahawks, then did Ducks-Seahawks hybrid, then went to Blazers for 5 years. And as you said, a lot of losings. As a matter of fact, they just completed their worst 4-year stretch since the first 4 years of the franchise's existence. That's how bad it's been in the last 4 years. I think I had the record at something abysmal, 117 and 211. Yikes. I got the honor of covering that. Anyway, but now I'm back on the Ducks. And as you said, they're a winning program coming off a 13-1 season. A little disappointing, obviously, in how it ended, but still a great year for the Ducks. One of the best seasons in program history, regardless of the playoff loss.
Bad juju with you that you took to the Blazers.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because while I did bring bad juju to the Blazers, my track record with the Ducks is amazing. As a matter of fact, they go to the national championship in 18.1% of the seasons I've covered them. And the 4 times I predicted them to go to the national championship game, they win twice. So I'm 50% there, whereas they've never gone without me predicting it or covering them. So I'm a huge transfer addition for the Ducks. You agree?
Okay, hey, when you're putting, look,
I'm doing what you said.
I can sit
I'm
here
doing
and
what
say,
you said, right?
Look at him, he's bragging. Hey, but when you came with facts, now everybody's gonna be like, maybe he might be on to something. So, hey, hopefully you bring your good luck rabbit foot with you, because in addition to obviously having a great roster and recruiting well, great coaching, you have to have some luck, because it's harder to win a national championship now than it has ever been to win a national championship. Because when it was 2 teams that went to the championship in the BCS, you only had to win 1 game. If you went,
but you had to get into the 2. Now you can get in easier.
Yes.
How's it harder?
But it's harder because you have to win more games against good competition. I mean,
but before you didn't even have the opportunity to win those games because you couldn't get in.
Yeah. No.
So it was harder to get. You can go either way.
Yeah, it was harder to get into the tournament, but then you only needed 1 good day once you got into the tournament, and then you needed 2 good days when it was 4 teams. Now you need either 3 or 4 good days in a row to win a national championship, and like the styles are going to play a big part. Like, for instance, last year, you mentioned the Duck season didn't end well last year. Part of that was because of format, right? Because Oregon had already beaten Ohio State earlier that year. So you would assume, and one would assume and surmise the way that both teams played all year, that was an outlier result. And if you pay attention to, even if Ohio State would have eventually won the game, it would not have been as lopsided as it was. And I believe that part of that is due to the playoff format. Like, I've never been a fan of the buys. I think that it is football and the length of time. So Oregon hadn't played in 25 days, where Ohio State had already played Tennessee. They're warmed up, revved up, and ready to go. And all of the teams that had buys, they started out very slow in the first half of their game. And they all lost.
I agree. It's when you look at the history of Oregon and if you were to shift the formats into different eras, for example, 2001 Ducks would have been in a 14 playoff, right?
Yep.
They would have been in a 12 team playoff, correct? Even 2011 Oregon would have been in a 12 team playoff. They won, or actually it probably still maybe even made it 4 because they won the conference. 2012 obviously would have been right in the playoffs. Whereas 23, whereas last year's team in the years past would have been in the national championship game.
Yes.
Straight out as an undefeated team.
Exactly.
Right?
And
as a 12-0, or even when they had the
played-
conference championship.
Exactly. And
They
you
would have played
a
who?
team that's been off the same amount of time, and then you only need one good day instead of, 3 or 4.
Right. So it's weird how those things work out. But regardless, the Ducks are clearly in a position right now, especially with the NIL and transfer portal, where they can reload. You know, there's some teams in the past that were unable to reload like the Ducks were able to do the last couple of years, especially this year coming up. So let's dive right into that. Let's start. We're going to do this podcast. It's going to focus mainly on the defense, and our next podcast will focus on the offense. But this is a defense. So I'm counting 8 starters gone, right?
Okay.
You got Bryce Betcher, linebacker back. You got Mateo Uiagalelei back, and then you got Tatum Tuioti. Sorry.
Yep.
Tuioti. I actually worked on that earlier and I botched it. So he started, I think, most of the games last year. So that's 3 starters returning from what was a really good defense. They put a ton of guys into the NFL. The entire secondary is gone.
And then you think about the fact that Devon Jackson and Amari Washington both played significant time last year too. So they weren't starters last year, but it is good to have people who played significant snaps last year that are coming back as well.
Right.
So I would,
helps.
Even though it's really only 3 true starters returning, you know, those 3 guys as well are also, those 2 guys are also adding significant, you know, it's not going to be their first rodeo or first meaningful snaps when they get out.
They're not. Right. They're not completely green.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying, basically. Yeah. So just real quick, before we get into positions by position, what's your feel overall with the defense with the new guys being plugged in? I mean, as a former Duck, you know, played tight end, knows everything. When you look at what they're going to do with the defense this year, do you feel like there's going to be some natural slippage just because maybe experience level, not having those seniors? Or do you expect the talent level is so high that they're going to slide right in and be just as good?
I expect the defense to be better than it was last year.
Okay.
Because they are going to get a lot of pressure. They have the leading sack leader in the Big Ten coming back with Mateo. Tuioti was a hell of a pass rusher as well. Amari Washington has proved that he's good. And then even behind them, you got Blake Purchase and Elijah Rushing, who should both get significant snaps. I've heard good things about the way Bear Alexander, despite his history, has transitioned over to Oregon. And then you have the 2 transfers. You got 2 all-conference players, and one of them a potential first-round pick in Dylan Thieneman, who came over from Purdue, who was a transfer. And then you got Theron Johnson, who came over from Northwestern as a corner as well. So you're adding a lot of depth in that secondary, like 2 guys who played at an extremely high level. So then when you add in, you know, the Jaleel Florence's, the Kingston Lopas, the, you know, Dalen Austin, Woodard, and Offord, and if any of the young guys are able to play as well, now all of a sudden a defensive backfield that was smaller last year, they are significantly bigger. Like this defense looks a lot more like what the Georgia defenses look like under Dan Lanning in terms of big, strong up front and fast up front, particularly at the linebacker position, and long corners because they want to play a lot of man-to-man.
I hear you. So let me ask you this though. You mentioned the transfer DBs and the size they had back there. And Will Stein talked a lot about that the other day. He was asked about, developing the receiving core, which we'll get to in another podcast, but he was saying how amazing it's been for those kids dealing with the secondary and the size and how obvious it is, how much bigger that group is. As a tight end, as a receiver, what does that mean in the secondary to you in terms of how it's going to elevate their play?
Well, okay. It's okay.
Besides the obvious,
you covered basketball for a long time with the Blazers and all of that. When you're watching NBA games or you're watching college basketball games and some teams just look big, or when you're standing on the pickleball court and it's somebody that's enormous, like 6'5", 6'6", standing in front of the net, it mentally does something to you because they just take up so much more space, and it deters some throws. You're going to be getting more batted balls and all those things, assuming that they're being able to be in the same position. And we're talking about a defense that last year gave up 19.4 points per game, was 16th overall in the nation, and then gave up 0.32 points per play, which was 24th in the nation as well. And then their total defense was 15th in the nation, only giving up 316 yards per game. So if they can improve on those numbers and improve on their amount of yards per play, which was a little above 5, then that is going to give you a much, much better defense. Like that's going to put you in, top 7, top 8 range, because it's not even the amount of points. It's yards per play. That's the number that you really want to get down.
Exactly. And hey, I'll tell you, man, I played some wide receiver back in the day, and usually I'm 6'2", so usually I was taller than DBs, or corners especially. But there was times when you match up with someone your height, and it just changes everything.
Yep.
It's more, even if you say you're not intimidated, it's just different because you can't body them the same. You can't get the same leverage on them. And if it's a jump ball, it's a battle. You're not out trying to outduel someone 5'10" when you're 6'2" or 6'3.
Yeah, it's like Shaq playing against Yao
someone
Ming.
6'3".
It's like Shaq playing against Yao Ming instead of Shaq playing against,
Chris Dudley.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember what Shaq did to Dudley?
Yes, these things are not the same.
So let me ask you this. Well, we'll come back in a second. Let's go to defensive line. So the main guy I want to talk about, is Mateo. Okay. So Tosh Lapoy was asked by my very own beat mate James Crepia about Mateo's potential this season, not just being a first round pick, but a guy who maybe could develop into being what James called a 1 of 1, the first pick in the first round of draft. Let's take a listen to what Coach Lapoy said.
That's absolutely the challenge. I think this guy has, I would go as far as saying unique smarts, where sometimes it's just natural, like big old, strong, long guy that can, do a lot of things, contrary to maybe some's opinions of an elite edge rusher. This guy has elite smarts, in my opinion. So what that does for us, one, a guy that can communicate a call up front, get us aligned and help us there, multiple positions, right? So we're rotating him. You're going to see him rushing interior. You're going to see him rushing off the edge. He lines up in a 2-point, lines up in space, and we have absolute full confidence in him in those positions. He plays Sam backer, Jack backer, big end, edge, 3-tech, just a unique guy, but I think, guys in the past that have been really fortunate to coach or be around, that's what jumps out is when a guy offers a whole bunch of versatility along with the things that you mentioned, right? The length and the physical tangibles, then that's how guys get into those special conversations.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Are we looking at a guy who in this year could be what Kayvon was, what Nick Reed was, and what DeForest Buckner was when he won Defensive Player of the Year in the conference on the worst defense in the conference in 2015? Are we going to see that kind of leap from this kid?
I see him as being better than Kayvon, that he has a chance to be better than Kayvon. I think that his first 2 years have been better than Kayvon's first 2 years. in terms of complete package. But the thing that you want to see out of Mateo this year, you want to see him stop the run just a little bit better. Even though he's an adequate run defender at this point in time, and we know he's an elite pass rusher already, but when you hear what Tashu Poi is talking about, putting him out in space, that puts the defense at a major disadvantage, because if he's on the edge of the line, you assume that he's going to be rushing the quarterback because he is special and elite at that. But now you can drop him out into space, and that's going to cause quarterbacks to hesitate, pump fake, because they're like, oh man, we were counting him as a rusher. And that's one of the things that puts him, that if they use him in the ways that Tosh was talking about, that puts him and can help this defense a lot, is when teams are game planning, one of the things that they do is they're looking at positions, right? When people are in 2-point stances versus 3-point stances. Now, you typically assume that the people with their hand in the dirt are pretty much always going to rush, and except for if they're doing, some weird fire zones or, exotic defenses. But for the most part, those are the people that are going to rush. But when you have a guy that can drop out into coverage, like you would see with the Steelers, like TJ Watt, now mind you, most of the time he's rushing the passer, but sometimes they sneak him out into coverage, and then he ends up being able to make a play, or, get an interception, bat a ball down, get a hesitation, and then somebody else gets a sack. So it also causes them to slide the protection the wrong way. And now you're getting one-on-one matchups. You're going to have more free rushers because of Mateo's versatility.
Yeah, especially if you zone blitz the other side, and then Mateo drops in the coverage, and the quarterback tries to throw that backside slant and thinking that I'm throwing hot, and then Mateo's standing right there and it's a pick six.
Yep. Love it.
Which is one thing that defense coordinators love to put quarterbacks in the bad positions. Okay, so we know he's back, 10.5 sacks. The record for sacks in the season, by the way, for Oregon is 13 by Nick Reed, who was just a demon back in 2008. And he also had 12 in 2007. He's the all-time leader in sacks. He had 29.5. Mateo had 10.5 last year. I know sacks aren't everything, but do you think he can flirt with that? Because you're looking at a situation where if they make the conference championship game and get into the playoffs, that's 14 games. Nick Reed did his damage in, I think, 13 at most. No, I think 12, because they were playing 11 back then, I think. Anyway, so do you think that we can see Mateo break that record?
Oh, it is definitely possible. But I don't think that breaking the record, it means that you had a better season. Because sacks are, and it's one of the more deceiving stats in college football, or even in football in general, even in the NFL. Because a lot of times people, oh man, that guy has the most sacks. But pressures and hurries from other people actually lead to a lot of sacks for other people. So if his pressure rate is higher than last year, and his run stop rate is higher, then you know that you have entered elite territory, because you can finish the season with an elite pressure rate like Kayvon Thibodeau did, and then turn around and be, a top 5 NFL draft pick. And the difference is that he's bigger. Kayvon, I think, left college maybe around like 255, 260, somewhere around there. This kid's 270. Maybe 275, chiseled up, and he's got one of the best social media handles in Young Concrete.
Absolutely. And also pressures and hurries lead to what?
Turnovers.
Interceptions, bad passes, man. Quarterback gets his happy feet, and they're like, ah. And Mateo might not even touch a quarterback the entire game, but his presence and the pressure he's bringing could lead to just maybe not even an interception, but just bad passes on third down, and you're getting off the field. Also, if he's drawing attention, if they have to double team him, then it frees up other people to make plays. So maybe he's not getting credit for the sack, but he's assisting in the sack on the other end by someone else. So who are these other people that you think are going to get these other sacks? Who are the other? I mean, obviously Tatum is someone, he had 5.5, I think, last year. Is he a guy who you think could push up to double digits in sacks, especially if teams are focusing too much on Mateo?
Yeah. I think that Tuioti is probably Elijah Rushing, and
Tuioti.
Yep, and Blake Purchase are probably the 3 that are really going to be pushing and spreading out a lot of those sacks, because and one of the things that you're going to get a chance to see teams do to Oregon, particularly on third down, is you're going to see more teams hurry up on third down than you have in other seasons, because they don't want them to be able to sub out and get fresh D linemen in there. And that's exactly what Dan did, when he was the defensive coordinator over at Georgia. And that's what he wants to be able to do. We've seen it with Georgia. We've seen it with Alabama, where they're getting their defensive linemen. They're switching them out way more. That way, when it comes time for, third, fourth quarter, they're just whooping on people at that point in time. So I definitely do think that, that a lot of pressure is not just the edges too. I think Bear Alexander could come up big, and so could Amari Washington, who I'm super high on him.
Why? Tell me why.
Because he had a good season last year, and, a kid that's coming out as a true junior, and he got a chance to watch Caldwell last year, and then the kid that transferred over from Michigan State that got drafted in the first round as well. Those are elite guys that you get a chance to practice with and against. And the fact that you got a chance to get on the field, that means that you are going to be ready.
So you mentioned earlier about Bear, despite his history. This is his third school, right?
Yeah.
Georgia, USC, Oregon.
Georgia, SC, and then now Oregon.
So tell me more about that, about what was going on with him at those spots, and why do you think maybe he's turned the corner here at Oregon?
Oh, well, okay. So at Georgia, I can't speak about Georgia because, he was young when he left. Sometimes kids are immature, and he was a kid that went to either 3 or 4 different high schools too. So then in college, once you start that kind of cycle, it becomes easier and easier to do it. So then he leaves Georgia, goes to USC, and he's like, this ain't what I thought it was going to be. I came out here for the glitz and get glamour. And remind you, he's one of them defensive linemen that previously had looked at himself like a DB in terms of swag, carrying himself, attitude, all those things. Hey, man. And now that he's up at Oregon, this is one of them. Hey, bro, this is your last chance. And if you can't make it work here, then your NFL chances are probably going to be pretty damn low. Like that, if you can't make it in terms of, because he's clearly physically gifted and physically talented. It's one of those between the ears things. And if you can get that between the ears thing going, and you can get him motivated and working hard and doing all the little things that he didn't do there, and being held accountable and being active in that, that's the type of growth and maturity that teams like to get excited about, because if he has a great year this year, ain't nobody gonna be talking about a Georgia transfer, USC transfer. They're gonna be like, oh, Dan out there putting them out. And then that only helps recruiting. More first round picks equals better recruiting, equals, and better recruiting equals better wins, better teams, and everything else.
All right, let's move to linebacker. And clearly, I mean, in the depth chart that James Crepea put up, he's got strong side linebacker, which we talked about with Tatum, sort of a hybrid defensive end spot, right? And then you got the money linebacker, Devin. Yeah,
he drops it.
Linebacker inside. He dropped right.
Mateo will.
Right. And then Jack linebacker, they got Blake. He has Blake Purchase here, which you mentioned as well. So let's go with Bryce. Bryce was at Big Ten Media Day. Clearly a guy on this team who has leadership chops, which is something I wrote about from Big Ten Media Day. I talked to Mateo, talked to Bryce, and I talked to Kenyon Sadiq about the fact that this team lost a ton of leaders. And Mateo said, people talking about the talent we lost, but the most important thing we probably lost was a lot of leadership.
Yeah.
Do you think Bryce is someone who can help not only lead himself, but help other guys become better leaders as well, to try and make up for the guys they lost in that area?
Yeah, because he's the exact kind of guy that people follow. He's a hometown boy made good kid from Oregon. He was a walk-on who played baseball and was like, I'm just going to grind this football thing out and keep getting better. And then this year, he's like, well, actually, last year, he was like, I'm not even playing no baseball. I am going to focus on this because he is a dude that I have heard in NFL circles could be a first-round pick as well. He comes out and continues to play well. Because I remember when I first saw him, I was like, who the hell is number 28? Why is he on the field with this neck collar thing? Big, stiff, something. And then I watched the play. I was like, oh, he good. Oh. Okay.
Call him a stiff.
Well, when you wear a
Wait,
collar,
didn't he start out? Did he start out outside linebacker? And I think someone mentioned
he was a
that.
walk on. They were just trying to.
I know,
just
but
find
no, he was at
anywhere
safety.
for him.
He was at safety. He was at safety. That's right. And they decided he
running
wasn't
down on
athletic enough for
kickoffs
safety.
Running
Right.
down on kickoffs and everything else, and then they found a home for him, which I'm excited about.
Right.
Because I like him. By the end of the season, I was like, why is he off the field?
All right. So, how do you feel about the rest of the group? Devon Jackson, Devon or Devon? I'm still learning these guys. What is Devon? Okay. Devon Jackson obviously played a lot last year.
Just butchering people's names all over the place.
Dude, this is what happens when you have, not only am I coming to this beat, I'm coming to this beat when they're changing 18, 19 starters. I've been trying to learn these kids. Anyway, I'll have them down by week 1, hopefully. But just give me your assessment of the backer core, because clearly, this is an important group. You have one solid guy in the middle that you know for sure. You got Tatum, who, clearly played a lot last year, and Jackson. This seems like, of all the groups, the most solidified in terms of having guys who've been proven within this program.
Yes, in terms of, well, actually, I would say the defensive line with Tuioti and Mateo, but the linebacking crew, the starters, the starters, like I don't really put the edges into it. So I'm going to go with Betcher and Jackson. That is a phenomenal starting linebacking crew. Now behind them, it is a lot thinner. You got Kamar Mathuti kid from down here. This way, I think he went to Los Alamitos. He has a chance to come in and play as a redshirt freshman. So this is the one position that they have not recruited quite as well at in terms of getting a lot of depth. And you actually may see them go into the transfer portal after this season to add a little bit of depth at the linebacker position. If you don't get, actually either way, I think that they're going to have to add at least one linebacker in the transfer portal. But this group, they are fast. They are fast and they are physical. Now, having Betcher and Jackson stay healthy is going to be the key to success. So I believe at the beginning of the season that you're actually going to see them rotate a lot more to make sure that they're fresh for Big Ten play, because you don't want to put a whole lot of snaps on them early, and you want to give the younger guys opportunities to play and make plays the way they can prove which one of them is going to be eligible to be able to get significant snaps in Big Ten play.
Gotcha. All right. Let's shift to the secondary now. All right. So we talked about the size. You got Jaleel Florence is 6'1". Who else? Thieneman. How tall is Thieneman?
I'll look. But you got Kingston Lopa, who's
he's 6 foot.
Yeah. Thieneman's 6 feet tall.
Kingston's 6'5". Jeez.
Yep. And then you got Dalen Austin, who's 6'1". And then they also like Ife. I'm not even going to try to pronounce Ife's his last name, because I need a pronunciation guy first. But
see, you're talking about me. You were talking about me. Go ahead.
One name, and I know that they like Sione as well. And
okay, so you said you think this group could be better than last year's.
Yes.
Even though,
yes,
and it's mainly because of the transfer. So let me ask you this: all the recruiting they've done, why they need to go get 2 transfers? Break that down for me. I think they signed like 16 defensive backs, and then they go out and they get 2 transfers. Is that an indictment on those kids? Or are they just too young, or is it just that these 2 were just too good to pass up?
Okay, young players are good, right? But in reality, if you have more than like 1 or 2 true freshmen making significant impacts, your team ain't that good. if we're really being honest. Like, because Jeremiah Smith don't walk through the door every day. Mateo didn't even start as a freshman, and he was phenomenal his freshman year. So, like, the thing that Oregon has done, which I appreciate, is that they have needed each and every year to get in the portal less and less. So this year they needed some immediate help at the offensive line, and they got, potential first round pick in Worlds, and, Pregnon coming over from USC. So they were able to upgrade in certain positions. And while they get their offensive line recruiting and pipeline down, because it takes a couple years to get your pipeline down. And that's the same is true as of the DBs, because they were recruiting guys, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer to build your pipeline. And that's the thing that is the difference is, where you have so much depth and guys are fighting for spots, and where you can get a rotation. So sometimes things get focused so hard on starters, when if you have a truly great defense, you're going to, like, your number ones and number twos are both going to play significant time. Think about it more like a hockey lineup or a hockey rotation, where out of the 60 minutes in hockey, your best players are going to play under 30 minutes. And you should look at that on the defensive end as well, that your best players should be playing about 50, 60% of the snaps, except for probably corner and safety, which should probably be higher around the 70s.
Okay. So let's dive more into Dylan, which obviously was a huge get because, safety spot is a leadership spot as well. This guy transfers in from Purdue, and he's projected to be a first-round pick next year. This is similar to maybe Christian Gonzalez when he came over from Colorado, played 1 year, and then was a first-round pick. Dan Lanning's talked glowingly about him, about just not only him as a player, but him as a person and the leadership he brings to this team. He's someone who definitely should be able to step in and fill a leadership void. How important is he to making this whole thing work? Having a veteran guy like that with that type of skill, that type of talent, that type of maturity and leadership to sort of bring that secondary together with a bunch of pieces that have never played together.
It's major, bro. It's major because if he plays well, he's a guy who is a disruptor. Guys who project as first round picks and turn into first round picks are disruptive. They literally change the game. A term that coaches like to use is game wreckers. They are game wreckers. They are a guy who can make you throw your whole game plan in the trash and be like, God dang, that dude just ruined every single thing that we were trying to do. Think Caleb Downs last year against in the Rose Bowl, how he was able to go with Oregon. With Ohio State against Oregon. But I'm going to ask you, Aaron, because you've asked me about this defense. I said I project them to be better than last year. What do you think that they're going to be? Mr. Objectivity. Let's
it's too. But part of my objectivity is recognizing that I'm literally shifting from 5 years of the Blazers to getting back deep diving into the Ducks. I've been doing Talking Ducks. So that's not the same. I'm be covering it now. So I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce some of these guys' names, man. So I'm not in a position yet. See, you gotta pick your spots. I'm not in a position yet to give that assessment.
So you're going to wait.
I will say this.
So you want to wait to throw cold water. Okay.
No, I'm not. Wow. Why? So, okay, let me say this. The number, 18, 19 starters, however you want to slice it, that's a scary number in most situations.
Yes.
But in the era of the transfer portal, right, and with Oregon's ability to pull, and it's like NFL free agency or Major League Baseball free agency, right? We need a second baseman. Go sign someone. Same thing now. The fact that they were able to go get 2 all-conference caliber DBs is just huge. And let's go back. We can go back to when I was covering the team a long time ago in 2015, the year Cooper Kupp lit up the Ducks. Remember that day?
Yeah.
Their weakness coming to that season was DB. They were young and inexperienced back there. They could have gone out and gotten these 2 guys. That changes a lot for that season, really, not just that game, but they couldn't do that back then. This era, you can. So I've given Lanning, which is, credit for this is obvious. It's not some kind of, great, analysis on my point, but he's done an amazing job in the free agency portal since he's been there. It's been incredible, not just quarterback, but everywhere. So when he brought in these two guys, it was a clear indication that they felt like they needed more maturity and more experience in the secondary, and they got it. And then you look at someone like Mateo, you look at the recruits they've had that have been developing. So I have no reason right now to believe that the defense won't be on par with last year, especially because they fortified the back end with two veteran studs. So sorry, you're not going to get cold water on me from me right now. You'll get some in the future. You'll get some in the future, but not right now. Right now, I got to keep it real, and it's too early for me, man. I got to see these cats in action. I always give my initial, like, this is where I'm leaning right now, and then I want to see the non-conference play out, and then you can assess it from there, because you're looking at a bunch of guys. You know, the offensive line, you got 4 new starters. Like you said, some are going to be NFL guys, but they never played together, right?
This is why I believe preseason rankings are so dangerous, because they do shape your opinions and the narratives on teams before teams are actually baked, right? Like
True.
The team that Oregon's going to play week 4, Penn State. If you look on paper, right, this team should win there are zero excuses. They're going to have a good defense. They have a national championship defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles. Their offensive coordinator is really good. They have the best running back duo probably in the country with Singleton and Katron Allen. Their offensive line, they returned 3 starters. And they have a quarterback that some people love. I'm not a Drew Aller fan, but a lot of people love him. Veteran head coach. Like, everything is set up for Penn State to win the Big Ten, to have a chance to win a national championship. And honestly, even though when I picked my Big Ten stuff, I pick it based upon how it should turn out and why things are like that. But I think in actual reality, Penn State will melt down again when it matters the most.
Okay. I like their quarterback, though. I thought he looked really good.
He's terrible.
Big Ten champ. He looked good in the Big Ten championship game, except for 2 passes.
Overrated player in college football. Okay. He is the most overrated player. Drew Aller. When Drew Aller is clean, when the pocket is clean, his spray chart is crazy. It is inaccuracy. Yes, he will make some plays running every now and then, and he'll throw a ball, but a lot of their offense as well are 1-read plays. He's looking, if he don't like it, throw it in the stands. He's not reading the full field. He's not reading half field. It is 1 read on where the ball is schemed to go up, and it's not there. It ain't happening. So I'm not a Drew Aller fan. I'm not a Drew Aller believer. I am a believer in the possibility for growth and change. So there is a chance to change my mind, but I wouldn't draft him. I wouldn't draft him at all. Like, I wouldn't draft him as much as I would draft like Quinn Ewers. I wouldn't have drafted him either.
Well, I have to admit, last year when going into the Penn State game, I pointed out that I'm trying to look at that right now, but most of his like he threw in the non-conference against West Virginia, Bowling Green, and Kent State, he threw 8 touchdown passes with 1 pick. Going into the playoff or going into the game with Oregon, he threw only like 8 touchdowns with 5 picks the rest of the way in Big Ten competition. So the majority of his numbers,
and they try to blame
in terms
it
of
on
touchdowns,
the wide receivers.
were padded.
Like, because the wide receivers were so terrible. They went in the transfer portal and got 3 wide receivers. Ain't no excuses.
Right. No excuses. Now, in the Big Ten game, he made some nice plays. He also made some bad plays. The 2 picks he threw were horrible, and he only completed 51%. So I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and see that. I think that maybe he can grow his senior year. He had 3, up and down years, just like who had 3 subpar years, and all of a sudden they blossomed in their 4th year. Recent Oregon quarterback. Who was that?
Who's that?
Bo Nix. Yeah, Bo Nix. Bo Nix. Let's give the guy the benefit of the doubt. He might pull a Bo Nix and blossom in year 4. We shall see. All right. Anything else you want to add on the secondary?
No.
We're running out of time on this episode. We're good. So we both like the defense's potential given the transfers. They got an elite pass rusher, promising D tackles, an elite linebacker, and an elite safety. So you're good up the middle, and you're going to get pressure on the quarterback. That's a great place to start for any defense. So, hey, I think we've got it covered. Nothing else to add?
Nope. Top
You're
10
good?
is brewing. It was number 16.
Top 10
right?
deep. What were they last year? 16?
16.
16. You're saying top 10 this year.
Yep.
After losing A-stars. That's amazing. You know what? I'm not even going to hate on it. I'm going to stand there with you with a little bit of skepticism, but I don't think you're exactly wrong. All right. That's it for the first episode of the Ducks Confidential Podcast with myself, Aaron Fentress, and George Wrighster, who played tight end in Oregon, was in the NFL, did Sirius radio show on the WB, was one of the Cosby kids, and knows more about football than every quarterback ever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, wait. Always Wrighster.
Now I get
wrong. It. Always Wrighster, never wrong.
And of course, the creator and star and host of the Unafraid Show. Check it out on YouTube. We'll be back with our next episode, which will be focusing on the offense. I can't wait to dive into quarterback, receiver, and tight end because I see a lot of potential issues there. We'll talk about that later. Oh, man.
Popsicles, sprinklers, a cool breeze. Talk about refreshing. You know what else is refreshing this summer? A brand new phone with Verizon. Yep, get a new phone on any plan with Select Phone Trade-in and My Plan. And lock down a low price for 3 years on any plan with My Plan. This is a deal for everyone, whether you're a new or existing customer. Swing by Verizon today for our best phone deals. 3-year price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate only. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.